Hello and welcome to Dice Punks, a tabletop role-playing podcast where we focus on playing full campaigns in less well-known systems. This week in episode 38, Liorian uses his gifts, hopefully for good, while Ramnet and Mavia try to resolve matters of the realm. Hello and welcome. I'm Adam, your friendly neighborhood game master, and joining me are...
Hey, I'm Drew. I'll be playing Liorian Qatar, Viscount of Tempo. I've been informed I'm using my powers. I sure hope for good.
Hello, and I'm Robin, and I'll be playing Mavia, mostly. Lyssa, likely?
I'm Dez, and I will be playing Ramnet, Prophet of the New Orthodox Church of Mott, and Duke of Murder, and also, recently, I'm the Baron of Sacrifice.
Let's briefly get a recap of last time, courtesy of Ramnet.
We, Mavia, Liorian, and I, returned to Fermata from the Godswood. The statues upon our arrival displayed us in visages of distressing consumption. We, then, less Liorian, headed toward the manifestation. In the heart, Evine was suspended over the well by her feet, which were held within a stalactite, clearly not natural in its formation. And a large, willowy, beefy acolyte emerged from the well, and we immediately dubbed him Timothy. Timothy related that Evine had attempted to expel both the Lightward successfully and the acolytes less successfully from Fermata, and that the acolytes took this somewhat personally. It was allegedly at my written orders. We have discovered, though, that I don't really use correspondence much. And I don't write when I can just walk over and have a meeting. It seemed expected by Timothy as the representative for the acolytes at large that I would pass summary judgment leading to summary execution, and I did not. She was woken and seemed relieved to not be about to be cast into the well, where what would happen would happen. But she was not exactly thrilled to see me, for reasons that I had no clue about, because, well, from my perspective, she was the difficult. She mentioned that she had been acting on correspondent orders from me, and that led to thoughts of Asha. After I refused to summarily cast her into the well, it was encouraged, once we figured out what was actually going on, that she leave her post and Fermata and travel to Caliban. Mavia and the Obsidian God had a colloquy in which it was apparently decided that Mavia should be more herself, and this resulted in an expansion of my portfolio to include sacrifice. Meanwhile, Evine apparently had a bit of a chat with Liorian, who tried unsuccessfully to recruit her, and she was intent upon figuring out the actual happenings and story behind the correspondence giving her false and misleading orders masking as me. We, the divinities, reassembled at the manor, and were in the midst of refreshing ourselves and talking to Timothy when Ilona burst in and demanded our assistance with Evine, who had apparently broken into my house. We found her in my office, with her hand over her eye and a quill pen through her hand. I destroyed the murder in progress, and slowly we discovered that the pen was a remnant, the rage left over at an apparently less than willing sacrifice, one of the 100 eternal deaths that resulted in the creation of the Chancellor Fermata. We destroyed the Bane, for that is what we discovered it to be, and set about our merry way. Liorian, well, I took my leave, and Mavia followed me, and set about to the manifestation to ensure that Asha was released as well, having been similarly misguided by the same Bane who wrote in my hand. While Liorian sought to use his perfect timing to join us, he instead found himself outside a large house in the riotous city. The door fell open at his approach.
Indeed. Thank you for that recap. I think the only thing that we left out, and it is my fault because I neglected to highlight it when I was doing my out-of-session kind of did we miss anything, is that Ramnet had a really hard time getting a cup of coffee.
I hope that came through in this recap.
Having done that recap, I think you've more than earned yourself your customary bonus XP roll.
Good to know that it's earned. That is 3 6s and a pair of 1s.
Well, let's increment that 666 count, and you get 1 XP. This one, I suppose, is black nickel-plated. Ramnet and Mavia heading out from the manifestation with Asha, getting him home safely. That is where we sort of remember them being in progress. But of course, where we have to start this one is with Liorian on the threshold of this seemingly abandoned, like, modest mansion in a relatively deserted part of the riotous city. You have found yourself arriving here apparently right on time as the door silently falls ajar slightly after you stood there for a couple beats.
I stand there for what I assume is exactly the correct number of beats, and then I tap the ajar door the precisely correct number of times and say, "Someone there?"
There is a very slight echo, in the house as you call out, but no other sign of anything moving or making noise inside the house. You note that you tapped 6 times lightly and rapidly.
I wait 6 beats and I enter.
You walk in. The house is very empty. No carpets, no furniture, no people, not even really like spiders or cobwebs, just obsidian, a little bit of wood accent here and there. The only thing that is furnishing the house is a profusion of oil lamps. They are set about 6 inches apart at about head height on walls on either side, leading into the kind of the main hallway and up the stairs at the back of the hallway that leads to the second floor of this house, where you can see light coming around doorways that lead off from the hallway. There seem to be lamps burning in there as well. Just from where you're standing, you can likely see 70 or more lamps all lit.
And from what I can see, no room seems any more or less lit than any other. Everything is it's oil lamps the whole way down.
Seems like you're mostly perpendicular to the rooms off of this hallway, so you have limited insight.
Are these lamps ordinary in the site? Are they just oil lamps, or do they seem to be something more?
Ooh. They are just oil lamps, but when you activate the site, the lamps themselves, totally ordinary through the site. I think this is going to be a sense plus scrutinize for you, since you are kind of like looking at them with purpose.
Sure.
That's going to be 6 dice for you. But
Okay.
we are going to say that you have a minimum height to succeed of 4.
Okay. That is no good because we have 3 3s.
Yeah, you have that thing where you really expect there to be something to see here, but sight, no sight. You get like a prickling on the back of your neck, but who doesn't get that from abandoned houses, right? Like, especially ones
filled with mysterious
Yeah.
oil lamps. Yeah.
So there doesn't seem to be a lot to see here.
Okay. I proceed into the next room, the room most directly in front of me.
Okay, well, so you've got 2 doors opening off of the hallway on your left,
Yeah.
3 on the right, and then you can go to the second floor by going straight.
Yeah, let's do the second floor.
As you walk past, these doors are not fully open. These doorways all have doors in them, and all the doors are varying levels of ajar, and it does look like there are just similarly lit rooms with the uniform spacing and height of lamps all the way around. And as you get to the stairs, you walk up. You have to stay to the middle of the stairs to avoid getting too close to an open flame, on either side as you go up to the landing, turn back around, come up towards the front of the house. And the second floor is one large room with a couple of windows set relatively high into the opposite wall overlooking the street. And it has 2 rows of lamps, one at around the height of your eyes, one at around the height of your hips, all evenly spaced, though offset slightly. It is a little dizzying and very bright and pretty hot.
Yeah. Can I do another sense roll, but can I just listen to see if I can hear anyone at all stirring in this house?
Yes, you may. So for you, sense plus hearing is 7 plus a master die.
Okay. I hopefully get something out of this. Is there a difficulty on this too?
You won't know if there is or isn't.
That's fair enough. Drop to die. Here we go. Okay. With the master die, that's going to be 4 5s.
Okay. You strain your ears for a moment, listening. You notice 2 things. You can't hear anything from the street, and it was relatively empty and quiet for the riotous city, but surely you should be able to hear something. It's a whole city made of obsidian. It's not like the acoustics are dampening the noise. But you also aren't hearing any of the sounds that you would associate with literally hundreds of oil lamps burning all at once. Sure, the house isn't getting a strong draft. Sure, the house isn't getting a strong draft, but one of them should run out of oil if nobody's been here, or they should be guttering a little bit in the eddies made by all the heat or something. But there is absolutely no sound other than your own breathing, heartbeat, footfalls.
I perform a ghost miracle and I make one oil lamp, the one that I could reach up and touch most readily if I were to do so, which I don't because oil lamp. I make it burn out unnatural fast.
You watch it for a moment. Your ghost miracle takes hold, and the flame doesn't flare and use all of the oil at once. It simply physics act on it faster. You watch the flame flicker quickly. It goes out. At the moment it goes out, every oil lamp in the house goes out. Roll me Sense plus Eerie, 6 dice.
Can do.
A little
Is this
bit of
a similar thing where
advice. Roll
Yeah.
high.
Sure. I mean, thanks. You know what? I'm mixing up which dice are involved because these have been treating me
Yeah.
okay, but this seems important. All right. here
Do
we
a
go.
superstitious roll before you roll. Figure out which dice are being kind.
One die ran away, so yeah, it lost the audition. Okay, here we go.
Don't die.
It didn't want to be in this creepy house.
It just noped out. Yeah. Okay, that'll do. 666.
Yes.
Marvelous. I must make a note of this. All right.
That's weird that I rolled triple all 3 times ascending. I've been working up to this. God damn it. All right.
All of the lamps go out at once. And this is for Mata. It's dark. But of course, there's always like that silver limbing around everything.
Mm-hmm.
Not inside this house. You can't even see it out of the window. The darkness is perfect, absolute, astonishing. Your heart beats faster in your chest, and you're very aware of it, as you are the Viscount of Tempo. You feel physically the darkness pressing in on you, pressing hard at your back. You know this is nonsensical. You shouldn't be able to feel the absence of light exerting a pressure on you. But as it does, your heart speeds up a little more. Your body wants to panic. But you are keeping it at bay thanks to your divine nature. You can ground yourself in your connection to your shard of your Imperator. You can take a little bit of solace in this particular version of nothing, and you can keep this rising tide of animal panic at bay, but you don't know for how long.
Yeah, I say to myself, I accept this gift of knowledge on the nature of nothingness, this knowledge that darkness and nothingness are indeed quite different, which a layman may not understand. I accept this gift, and upon saying the word gift enough times, I extract the glowing boon that I was given, that I've been hiding so as not to offend the denizens of Ramada, from my pocket.
When you pull the glowing boon from Celiand out of your pocket, you don't hear anything. It remains as quiet as it has been, but you don't limit yourself to just 5 senses these days, and there is a reverberation sort of through the mythic aspect of reality in this house that could really only be described as a shriek, even though it's not making any noise. For your part, you're a little distracted. You are looking at this glowing boon with intense relief. As the darkness is pushed back, you could feel the tingle of adrenaline still suffusing your body, but it grounds you. You can see the floor, the walls, the shapes of the lamps glinting dully in the light from your boon. And you know that as long as you have a little bit of light in this place, you'll be okay. You dread when it is gone, though. Give me a unconventionally sense plus knowledge 5 dice.
Okay. Selecting my dice carefully here. That is 2 8s.
You stop short a little bit as you sort of recover from this harrowing experience, and you examine your feeling of relief, your trepidation, and there's something a little absurd about it. You've, even as a child, not really been afraid of the dark. It's, unnerving to not be able to see anything, but you were always too curious for that. Where is this coming from? It's not coming from you.
If I listen with my senses, which exceed the 5 with which our listeners might be most familiar, can I sense anyone else in the room or in the house with me? Has the presence or absence, or the absence of a presence, changed since I started fiddling with the light?
Roll a sense plus scrutinize. 6 dice.
Thank you for letting me use the sense of a character in the group that finally has a bunch of sensibilities.
I don't think they've been super thin on the ground, but this is definitely the highest.
Ramnet totally does. That is very true. 2 5s.
Okay. You realize why you didn't sense it before. But now that you're looking at it from a different set of expectations, there isn't something in the house with you. It is the house. Had you been standing on the street when you looked initially, you might have seen it. But you were already in the belly of the beast, so to speak. This house has some sort of will, and you're pretty sure it's malevolent given what just happened.
I call out to the house. I say, my apologies if I've offended you. I was terrified is probably the correct word. Can you speak? And if so, may we speak?
You hear a faint whoosh from downstairs that gets rapidly louder as a glow suffuses the bottom steps. And the lamps explode. One after the other coming up the stairs towards you. The entire thing is on fire. You don't have much time.
I was going to make a Ghostbusters joke, but that took a turn away from busting ghosts.
I am afraid of one house. Okay, are the stairs currently clear? Is there a path to get out? Not at all. Is there a banister
to have started by the door that you came in through and gone on a wave back toward the stairs, up the stairs, and now it is coming into the room.
Understood. I was hoping I'd heard that wrong. Are there windows?
Yes, there are a number of windows set high in the wall over the street.
Stop throwing cinnamon buns out the window.
As Wesley once said, death first.
So, I find, are these windows barred or anything, or does it look like I could get one open pretty easily? All right.
They've got, they're not barred. They've got 4 panes of glass held together by wood, in them each. They don't appear to open. They appear to be fixed.
Sure. As I run toward one, I extract my lure and I prepare to blow out the window with it.
All right.
The walls, the windows. As the poet once said.
Oh.
The gifts are bounteous this session. So I guess this is a combat roll, even though I'm fighting an inanimate object. I'm looking to cause destruction. Yeah.
You will use your musical combat skills. So you've got your coordination roll, I think, there. Although I don't see the number for the...
That gets replaced by a command plus perform, but
correct.
With the misplaced confidence penalty, right?
Yes,
so I've got a difficulty of at least 3, depending on the situation. I think is how that works.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me of how we had laid that out on your sheet. Yes, you will have misplaced confidence, but you will roll a 7 plus expert die pool.
I'll set the beast has been good to me so far, so I'll set the expert die to 6, and I will go ahead and roll.
All right.
Only because of the expert die, that is another 666.
Wow.
Magnificent.
Excellent.
Are we
Let's see
already
if we
at
can get
3?
to 6 of them. We're already at 3. So yeah, you. I mean, tell me the noise that this makes.
If you've never heard a lure, I mean, it's an early brass instrument. So I mean, if you could imagine a sousaphone that has come to kick your ass,
I think we can safely declare this though to be a diminished fifth.
Oh, absolutely, no question. Yes, that is the interval that is played. It is a diminished fifth, and the sound is a combative brass. It is a wind of ruin, but it is also a merry dute.
The dirgeful dute.
The doleful dute.
Doleful.
Dirge, yeah.
That's a good word
Yeah.
for it. Dolorous dute. You sound the dolorous dute, and the middle window bursts apart into the street with a terrible sound of glass and wood breaking. And would I be correct in assuming that you just hurl yourself through it?
I do. I mean, I guess I'm using I suppose I'm using an aspect miracle to make sure I land quite well.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess just
you're.
I mean, a graceful jump is one of the examples in the book of a level 0 aspect miracle.
Your other option
so
would be to roll body plus athletics, which is 2 dice. So
sure, let's say I use the basic level 0 aspect miracle, but I do also roll that to see, just how well this goes and just how graceful I am, which I weirdly am thinking about.
Of course,
Not weird for this
So
character.
body plus athletics. True. Body plus athletics for the record is 2 dice, so we'll see how this goes. Bad. No matches. High 9 if that matters.
So you try to land gracefully, and you don't quite manage that, but you do manage to land in a way that does not hurt the lure. So
I'll take it.
Or
the
the
important
Liorian?
stuff, mostly wounds your pride. Maybe, you'll be favoring the foot that you landed hardest on for a few minutes. But
I lay down and die of shame.
all right. Well, Ripley Orion,
Goodbye.
let's jump on over to.
I guess Drew has to make a new character sheet again.
Yeah.
That's
it. I'm dead.
We're going to try to get it down to every episode by the end of the campaign.
Let's spin the wheel of Drew's new characters. No, I am in fact alive,
Yeah.
though my pride is wounded, and I make a rude gesture at the house.
You turn to make a rude gesture at the house, and as you do, the last of the lamps explode and a gout of flame licks out of the window that you just jumped through.
It made a rude gesture
I
back.
run. Yeah, basically. I run, mindful of my foot.
Okay. So, Ramnet, Mavia, you've been accompanying Asha from the manifestation back to his house in the riotous city. Last time this house appeared in the campaign, it was home to a distressing number of letters written in handwriting indistinguishable from Ramnet's, begging, pleading with Asha for help, and rescue from the nobilis of Mott. It's, been shut up for a little while now because Asha has been
Detained.
imprisoned. But as you are approaching Asha's house, there is a shattering sound from down the street, and Liorian, clutching his lure, comes flying out of a second-story window, lands somewhat awkwardly, but seems okay, turns around, makes a rude gesture to the house, which with a whooshing sound, lets a gout of flame out of the second story window. Asha has stopped and is staring. And momentarily, Liorian turns and walks in your direction and then sees you.
I'm gonna look at this house with the sight.
Looking at the house with the sight, well, there's a lot of fire spirits in there now. Kind of, crowding in and spilling out. But the house itself, in the site, has something of a familiar texture to it. Mm-hmm. Reminds you a little of the quill.
So you'll have to jog my memory, because I left a message for Ramnet on his countertops some time ago.
Is this the house? Oh, go ahead.
I don't remember what Mavia discovered when investigating the house in a different location.
Fury, primarily. Lamps, no. But Fury, yes.
Is this the house that I followed into at one point?
No.
Well, that's good, at least? Maybe?
I turn to Ramnet and say, this is what I left you the message about. I assume, anyway.
The one that you carved into my countertop?
Yes, that message is the one to which I am referring.
And people wonder why I don't do correspondence.
Asha is following this conversation with a little bit of bewilderment. Asha has been walking on the other side of Ramnet from Mavia.
Wise.
But has now sort of leaned around Ramnet to sort of goggle at Mavia upon hearing carved in the counter.
Is Mavia walking on her feet or her dark tentacles?
Yes.
Yes, or.
The dark tentacles are a thing that Mavia now has back, thanks to Mott's reward last session. But they must be sort of used purposefully, now, which is to say, yes, she is using them, but they are not sort of the autonomic scurrying that they used to be. They are more deliberate, limb-like, sort of.
They're still
kind of. Yeah.
Moon shoes.
Probably closer, actually, in how they affect your motion. And when you are not actively thinking about them, they sort of just trail cloak-like behind you.
Cursed Heelys.
Heelys from the darkest timeline.
Satan's hoverboard. So, it is perhaps at about this point that Liorian, you draw close enough to converse comfortably with your companions and their companion.
So, it appears that you found another thing like the quill.
It would seem so. The quill may not have been an isolated case. That house is, if I may, and I do not mean to offend, a bit of a jerk.
I snort. And do I sense any Octoritas from the fire spirits within?
No, the fire spirits are without Octoritases.
I will do a lesser destruction of fury on the fire spirits with the purpose of at least stilling them enough to be able to better see with a capital S what's going on within.
Yeah, to your surprise, they all wink out instantly. They were sustained by borrowed fury, and when you do your lesser destruction, they're gone.
Okay. Can I, unless anyone else has something in mind, I may do a major divination in Fury.
Mm-hmm.
And see if I can divine
for
the
sure.
source in more specific terms, because I think it fled from me last time, but the source of the fury within the house.
So the source of the fury within the house, you have a better fix on it this time, not least because it has expended energy recently and can't really react as decisively or as quickly. And it's relatively clear relatively quickly that the house is the source of the fury. The house is in some sense alive, and again reminds you of the quill. It has a fury on its own behalf, but detached from what it used to be. Only the fury has survived, and it has manifested in this house.
Does the house, I ask with a lesser divination, I should be able to do that for free, correct?
Let's see, that's a level 2?
Of sacrifice.
Yeah.
Oh, level 2. Okay. Then it would be 1 div point for it. Is the house a part of a sacrifice, or was it?
Well, I mean, you get the sense that perhaps the house itself, not so much.
The entity making the house.
But yes, like the house being like it is now, right, is the result of sacrifice. One of those.
Actually, I'll bring that out of Realm.
Yeah.
Since I'm
Realm will do it.
Realm.
Yeah, it is that specific sacrifice that created the chancel.
Yep. Here we have another wayward piece of the enchanceling spirits.
Indeed.
Meaning that there are 98 such objects unaccounted for.
At most.
Just
what is around us right now in the riotous city? Is there
residential area? So it's got you got Ramnet, Mavia, Asha, rows of houses on either side. A few people further away, although they are hurrying away from the place where a fire had started and then winked out.
Both with my eyes and with the sight I scrutinize the houses, the paving stones, the shoes of the people who walk by suspiciously and scowl.
There is a version of this where I sat down with like an Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Dungeon Master's Guide from the 1980s and a D100 and just rolled up random objects that would be in Fermata 100 times.
Where's Waldo of mimics?
It's like those horrible apps where you have to find hidden objects in a very cluttered scene.
Yeah, I spy with my little eye something furious. I
am probably unproductively scrutinizing every object to see if it is also malevolent.
Yeah, it is fascinating to see, like, oh, hey, yeah, there's the tutelary spirit of a shoe, but that's about all you get.
So, how do we wish to destroy this one?
So I explained about the oil lamps and that's what ignited both figuratively and literally this episode of rather rude inflaming.
So I guess for my purposes here, how much of the whole experience do you relate at this point?
Probably all of it, although rather quickly. Sure. So I entered. There was a preponderance, a profusion of oil lamps. The effect was rather upsetting. I made my way upstairs, extinguished one experimentally, whereupon horrible dread took me. Whereupon, and then I gesture at the flames.
This seems to be the responsible entity for the Light Ward.
Did they live here?
Are you asking us?
Yeah. Particularly since one of our number was rather attached to the Light Ward.
Who?
Who?
And rather not attached to one of the others.
I kind of...
Oh, Chad, we will never miss you.
Thad.
Excuse me.
I give Ramnet an imperious stare, sensing that it was directed to me. And how do you suppose I would know that?
I don't know if you can ask your other half.
Would Lyssa know? Was this? I know it wasn't the same house that Cinnamon Bun was yeeted out of the window, because I was in a different location.
Well, it
moves. Same house, different place?
It would take Lyssa looking at it to be able to tell whether it was, connected or identical, or if there was a distinguishing feature. But if Lyssa were asked, she would know that the Lightward, before they set up their camp near the plaza, lived in their homes. They lit a bunch of lamps and candles and stuff, but they didn't congregate in any one building in Fermata.
They didn't have a big, bright, groovy crash pad. If I have not made it clear already, I do clarify that I was not yeeted, but that I yote myself while fleeing the flames.
You flew under your own power?
I do. I defenestrated. I was not defenestrated.
If I were to consult my other, she would not be able to fix this problem the way I am.
Do we imagine that these malevolences are presenting a danger to the good people of this city? I can only imagine that they are.
Given that we found the last one through the eye of the mayor?
Well, I suppose. Well, yeah, you make a persuasive argument. I suppose I mean those who aren't directly connected to us. Are they hunting us and those we? It's a terrible thought. I shouldn't even.
At that, I step forward. Remind me what the Octoritas was that I sensed.
The value,
Mm-hmm.
like how strong it was 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you both are done talking, I think I'm going to go ahead and wipe this from the face of Fermata.
It didn't seem especially forthcoming with information, so I don't think I have an objection.
Okay. I will do a lesser destruction of fury with 1 penetration.
All right. And sure enough, there is a prolonged moment where you are in the process of destroying the fury in this place, and it is powerless to resist. You simply siphon it off into yourself and change it into your own endless well of fury, and it is no more. The house itself doesn't look different to mortal eyes, but probably even the most baseline human walking past the house would sense a change. There is less presence there. The window that Liorian broke and jumped out of is no longer broken. There are no lamps inside. It is an ordinary house once again.
That was well done, my furious queen.
I stretch my shoulders and pop my neck casually.
There is a brief pause, and Asha goes, I should probably be getting home, and just spins on his heel and walks a little bit stiffly up his steps, stops at the door, turns and regards Ramnet seriously and goes, Thank you. And
Of course, Sasha.
gives
Do
you
take
kind
care.
of a polite bow, not too deferential, but, still a little on the formal side, and then says, "You as well," and walks into his house. You think you can hear him sort of like lean bonelessly into the backside of the door before he walks further in. At this point, you all find yourself standing on a relatively nondescript street in the riotous city. You can hear the clamor from nearby streets, but this one, of course, mostly, living area. Now that, Liorian, you are no longer in the house, and the house is no longer supernaturally empowered to psychologically torment people, you can hear that as the riotous city, the houses nearby have, some boisterousness drifting out of them every once in a while. But otherwise, you are more or less alone on this street, the three of you.
Well, I was discussing this earlier with the other two, but I have a bloodstone ingot in my pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know of any forges in Boar.
Therefore, before we depart,
So I guess that begs the question, Mavia, are you planning on working this metal? And if so, do you know where any forges are in Fermata?
No, I don't. No, I'm not. However, I like to think that now that there's like two parts of a whole synergy going on, that there's at least a tangential awareness. So, do you want me to roll to see if Lyssa is going to come to the fore?
I suppose that depends, right? Is Mavia attempting to prevent her from doing so?
Less so now.
Okay. Then I suppose that I won't make you roll, because it's not an if, it's a how long and how easily. That you can decide as a character thing.
Oh. Okay. Well then. Lyssa does reemerge, probably after a few more dramatic flexes from Mavia. The shadows kind of back into their places, and Lyssa blinks and looks around.
Yeah, you find yourself on a relatively isolated street in the riotous city, accompanied by Ramnet and Liorian.
Is Avine okay? Did we help her?
We did. She may be the worse for wear, but she is still.
We prevented her murder by a remnant spirit of the enchantment.
What happened to you, Liorian? You look like you
Just point at the house.
There's nothing. There's no broken window. I look at the house and
perfectly
I'm
ordinary
Liorian. Did you have a tumble with someone?
Well, the thing about spirits, the house was also inspirited and quite spirited, and attempted to set me ablaze. Did not succeed,
and has since been despirited.
Oh, good. All right.
And I fell, but not far. So, very fine. Thank you for your concern.
I think you jumped. You landed a bit awkwardly, but you did land. It was not really
sure. That's very kind of you. Deep shame.
You say, trying to not be embarrassed at my calling attention to...
Deep shame crosses my face. Yeah.
Well,
I'm alive, but I am not cool. So,
do you?
Is that better?
Yeah. I'm really sorry to hear that. There's something strange about this city and people jumping out of windows. Can I help you with a miracle?
I'm not feeling especially furious. Maybe I should be.
No. Oh, no, I can't do that anymore. Never mind.
Oh, no, of course. I didn't mean to. That was probably terribly.
Well, while we're here, and I pull out the ingot and kind of shrug and say, do you think I have time to make something of this real fast?
I would worry somewhat about the forge belching flames or the anvil attempting to stomp us, but as long as we're prepared for that possibility, I see no reason not to pursue.
In my experience, that's yeah, you might singe yourself every once in a while, but the tools here don't seem malevolent.
Wherever objects are not malevolent, I propose we go there.
Yes.
I can name at least a handful of bars and a good forge and, well, not this house, but a manor. And I start walking off in the direction of the forge.
All right. Yeah. You had done quite a few episodes ago now, something of a survey of smiths and forges in Fermata. And so you are able to head off directly to the nearest one that you would care to work at.
Mm-hmm.
And it is relatively short order. You are walking up to a smithy that is in the process of being put in order for closing down for the day. But the smith, when he sees you, sort of blinks and just sets down what he's got kind of off to one side and gives you an uncertain little bow and says, "My lady, welcome."
Hi, sorry. I see that you're trying to close up. I was hoping to make use of your facility for an experiment.
Well, he glances around at his smithy and goes, "It's all yours, milady."
Thank you. And I hand him a handsome amount of coin.
Mm-hmm. He looks at it, looks at you, looks at it, bows again, and then just sort of like backs away, trying to be polite, respectful, not hurry. But he sort of doesn't quite pull it off. And you intuit that he is heading to a bar.
Good man. So I guess I'm just gonna make sure that Ramnet and Liorian are situated, kind of show them around, point at the various bits and pieces and anvils and bellows and everything else, and explain to them how it works in rapid fire succession such that they probably don't absorb everything that I'm saying because I'm talking.
I do not pay attention to it.
I know which of the words will rhyme for later.
And what I would like to do, and we can figure out how to do this because I realized I already made a mistake in not spending some points at the beginning of the session, is essentially I want to take the bloodstone ingot, and on blacksmith hammers, there's the blunt end, and then there's the end that comes to a little bit of a point that's not quite a blade. But I would like to make the more pointed end out of bloodstone, because though it's highly workable, I recall it holding a blade very well. So it could still be used for its original purpose, but also double as a weapon.
So, to be clear, you are crafting a new hammer here.
Not a new hammer.
Augmenting Electo, I think.
Yes.
That's why I was double checking. So, you obviously have the domain of the forge, albeit at 0. But I would also like you to roll your knowledge plus student blacksmith at 2+ a master die.
Okay. Oh, so I got 2 9s, just flat, and then so with the master die, that'll be 3 9s. So close to 3 6s. I had to double check in my half darkened room where the line was on the 9s.
So you immediately slot in. You're sort of narrating everything. You after your tour, you sort of narrate what you're doing in between blows. You show any particular audience that may be watching what's going on. Again, your audience is maybe not as interested as you would be in their position, but you also get some passersby on their way home, kind of stopping in for a couple minutes to watch, the demigoddess of the forge at her craft with an unfamiliar metal. And your shard for the forge just sort of lets you get in a zone and just know what you're doing. Even though you've never worked with this metal before, it comes naturally to you. You have to keep it hot. You have to constantly reheat it, rather more than you would, and hotter than you would for more commonplace metals. And it takes a lot of working at first, but the more you get it close to the shape you want, the faster the process goes. And by the time you get to where you are starting to put finishing touches on, you are sort of flying, not in terms of speed, but in terms of like kind of an almost like irrepressible grin. You feel very in tune with the material, and you almost feel like you can detect excitement and gratitude from Alecto. And in relatively short order, for at least considering what you were getting up to here, it doesn't take very long. You have put the finishing touches on your augmentation to Alecto, and she is looking sharp. Mostly in the figurative sense, but also kind of in the literal sense. The bloodstone worked to this sort of shape and thinness is sort of a on the continuum of color that and lustrousness that contains both beaten copper and rose gold, but it is redder, darker, not quite sinister, but more dramatic, certainly.
Awesome. Would I have had any scrap metal remaining from this process? I think I had enough to make a sword. Sword? I don't know.
Well...
and just totally added a weird pronunciation to that. Don't mind me. I pronounced the W for some reason.
It's all right.
I'm sorry. I'm going to have to jump in there.
Drew, that's cursed.
Riecht.
Excuse me. Yes. I'm sorry. My English.
I will stand by my statement.
How modern English of you. In any case. So my thought is that this was going to take the whole thing, because when Fewa was telling you that the small ingot was enough to make a sword, she was not talking about a broadsword. She was talking about a rapier that would have crumpled if it were made out of an iron ore or steel, but because of bloodstone, could be very thin and willowy, but still hold its shape. I am willing to be convinced on this, because I am not at all an expert on metallurgy or blacksmithing. But my thought here was that this was enough to make a thing out of. But if you have a specific purpose for a small amount, I'll hear you out.
Realizing, once it's heated up, how supple it would be, I probably would attempt to make, I'll say the word knitting needle, but about half the length of that. What it would actually be is in 3 little spears intended for throwing, almost like knives.
Okay, little darts. Okay. They are when finished, a little smaller than you had anticipated starting out, but you did kind of get into the zone, and you made them maybe even a little bit more like flechettes. They have aerodynamic qualities that you weren't even conceiving of when you started. That kind of they are smaller than you had envisioned, but perhaps more. They have more flight characteristics worked into their design.
Perfect. That's exactly what I was envisioning. That works well. So I would do my best to put everything back just as I found it, if not a little better. Maybe I swap a tool here or there for efficiency's sake.
From your perspective, you have mostly put everything back exactly where it was, with a little bit of a tweak here and a little bit of a tweak there. From the perspective of an objective observer who cared to pay attention, you have actually made not just one or two, but a few dozen little tweaks by the time you're done. And it is more efficient, but maybe not extremely courteous. So, were our other two players getting up to anything in particular during the admittedly relatively short interval for smithing that Lyssa was working?
I don't think
I was awestruck. I was also scrutinizing every object in the room and realizing, especially as I watched her work the materials, that I need not be concerned for her safety, but nonetheless, as I learned the names of unfamiliar objects, I couldn't help but picture them being poltergeisted.
Yeah, at the end of this interval, you have found no poltergeists.
Good.
Agreed. Well, in that case, in seemingly no time at all to Lyssa, you have a new and improved Electo at your belt. You feel invigorated from a good spell at the forge. Your friends seem, relatively high spirits, given all that has happened recently. And you may choose where to go and what to do next.
We should possibly report to mobs that another wayward soul, as it were, has been returned completely to the care of the Chancellor.
Yeah, let's make it brief, though.
So,
Indeed.
You two head off back toward the manifestation. Liorian, I again assume that you don't go in, but how are you disposing of yourself while they go?
I got to try out my new material, so I attempt to busk again, and I'm singing of the forge for those who missed it. Up on the fires of the forge did the demi-goddess gorge. Lyre plucked as fire, sucked the uncouth materials into... I'm working on it, okay? It's a work in progress.
So, if I could have a command plus perform music, 7 plus an expert die.
Sure. I'm not a poet, remember. I'm not Dusk. I'm just it's mostly about the melody.
Yeah.
That with the expert die, that is 4 4s.
All right. You do all right.
Oh, sorry, expert, not master. I'm sorry. So that is only 3 4s.
Okay. 3 4s. Yeah, you do okay. People tend to give you as many strange looks as considering or flattering ones, but you get a couple of odd bits of what passes for money in Fermata. Silvery metal and worked stone chips. And
do I see any Timothys, repped or otherwise?
You see no acolytes. In fact, none of you have seen an acolyte other than the supersized one since you got here.
Which one was that again?
The one that came out of the well.
That doesn't help.
Adam rarely means to.
I was going to say, if that doesn't help, then I don't think I can help you.
Man, there was something we called that one.
Yeah, I can't think of it.
You're right, there was something you called that one. So, while Liorian is working on his new material, Ramnet, Lyssa, you descend once more into the heart of the chancel. No sign of the stalactite that had imprisoned Aveen not that long ago, but you can sort of feel the surprisingly restless presence of Mott sort of suffusing the space. What is your report? That's me asking, not Mott. Mott doesn't say anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Ramnet, you're going to take the lead on this one.
We found and disposed of, that is to say, we returned unto the chancel, a rogue portion of one of the enchancellement sacrifices, and thought it reasonable to report this to you.
We see. This is well done. You have been most industrious. You have your master's thanks. At this point, you, without any sort of announcement, receive one of each miracle point. So whatever your total is, add one to it. Currently
Cool.
in hand, you are given just a small jolt of miraculous energy.
Sweet. So in each category?
Yeah, so one domain miracle point, one aspect miracle point, one realm miracle point, and one spirit miracle point.
That's awesome.
Now this is added to your supply, not to your
Permanent.
permanent restoration total.
Mm-hmm. I'm flush.
Yeah, you have pleased the Obsidian God lately. Honestly, both of you have. So you are being rewarded for it. Mott continues. We sense that events are moving rapidly. We are unable to see as much as we would like, as our primary opponents consolidate their power. We need you in the world, opposing their every move. The deep stirs, the desert walks, the sun creeps ever higher, and the sky moves closer to the earth.
The sky is falling?
Mott doesn't give a specific reply to that question.
Out of character, Adam, did we present the diplomatic overture already?
I do not believe that you have.
Okay. While we were in the God's Woods, we were given a conference with Celian after we had murdered Sacrifice. And we offered her a proposal which may have been a bit above and beyond our ambit, but she seemed amenable to it and offered a means to contact her if you were indeed interested in the plan, namely, to allow for an end to the war without any necessary divine victor by destroying the throne.
So, this is a tricky situation for a mortal to be in. And I think that you have probably presented your case as well as you possibly could. What I need now is for you to roll Charm plus Fascinate.
Oh.
Thanks to your romantic outlaw charm. 4 dice plus a master die.
Oh, isn't it? Wait, are you saying both of us need to roll this?
No, only the speaker.
Okay.
In this case.
I was confused by you too.
Oh, yeah, sorry, that was T-O.
Yes.
Sorry.
Not comma T-O-O, T-W-O.
Yeah.
So, I got a pair of 9s, which with a master die becomes 3
right.
9s.
Mott is silent for a moment, though there is no physical form or even visual stimulus. You nevertheless get the sense of pacing and thought from Mott's silence. When Mott speaks again, they say, "The Lady of Beauty is strong. It has been eons since last we held conference. She keeps secrets."
Yes. She ordered sacrifice to murder our traveling companion, and presumably to murder us as well.
This does not surprise. The object that you were granted, hurl it into our well, and should we have need of it, we will activate it. But no, we will do so only at great need or from a position of great strength. If you wish for this rather fanciful outcome, work to strengthen our position so that we may face Lady Celiand from an advantage. Anything that wishes to confer with her should do so with care, and you would be well advised to take this.
Absolutely.
It is interestingly...
Truth was an accommodating sort.
It's interesting that when considering meeting with or conferring with Celiand, is probably the most cogently human you've ever gotten from Mott in conversation.
Is there a power you would suggest we work against to strengthen you?
You get the feeling of a sort of predatory grin, even though, again, there's no expression to behold when Mott speaks. Our most ancient enemy is the deep. But the most powerful opponents we now face seem to be Cirtha and Ventis, Celiand. I have also heard tell of an alliance to the east.
For what it is worth, I believe that Ventis, in the subdivided part we accompanied for a time, would also be amenable to an unmaking of the throne.
She seems nice.
This information is useful. Perhaps the single best thing you could do to strengthen our position in relation to our peers is to bring to heel the wayward shard that was stolen in Theret. Hurl Dusk into our well, and we shall be as powerful as ever we have been.
So, Theret then?
So Sirfa. As we have two very different reactions to this.
Oh. Mott thinks for a moment and then says, your discretion, the two of you in particular, have succeeded as much as the traitor failed. I have given you information that you can use. Prove yourselves, and I will see that you share in my power and glory, and that I take your counsel upon the resolution of this war.
Thank you for considering it.
Do not take my favor for granted, and all shall be well. You have earned this.
I shrug at Ramnet.
I will respond to that. Yeah.
So I guess the main question is, do we pitch the Celiand boon into the well as requested? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't it in Liorian's possession? Did I miss it being?
There were two boons.
He
Oh
has
yeah,
a
that's
separate
right.
one.
Okay.
One was bound for here
Ours
and
is
one was
dark.
bound for
Oh.
dusk.
Right.
I guess we eat it in.
Yep. It is swallowed almost instantly by the dark of the well without a sound. Mott pretty clearly dismisses you with a "Continue to please me, and you shall be thankful that you have."
That was polite.
Yeah. This is definitely the most personable that we've seen him. I'm assuming this is out of character since we're still in the goddamn well.
No, my comment was definitely in character.
Okay. I'll nod and sort of gesture with my head toward the stairs.
I awkwardly just wave at the well, not quite sure what the proper bye is in this situation, then head towards the stairs.
All right. And you ascend. Liorian, they are gone for something of an interval. Do you do anything in particular with that time other than continue your busking?
I busk for a while. My perfect timing perhaps betrays me, for even though I can't hear the conversation below, at the moment that certain words like traitor escape the well, I hit sour notes. This disturbs me. The verses become more tortured than ever. I'm saying the soul of the blacksmith makes whole what ore lacks, with a swing and a strike like the wing of the shrike, swift and true. And then I give it up. I put away my loot.
Right as you give it up, you hear like very enthusiastic applause coming from the door behind you, with some bellowing whoops and hollers. I managed to make an entire audience's worth of sound.
I am honored and relieved and also a little embarrassed.
So, Liorian.
Indeed, I am, in short, Liorian. My Queen of the Forge. That went well. I take it by your enthusiasm. Your enthusiasm could not be a result of my my intuning, I'm afraid.
Well, no, that was exclusively the source of
Why
my
would it not be?
enthusiasm.
You don't swing like a shrike at all. That just is a tortured rhyme. It's much more like a greater bird. I'll work on it.
I can't say I know what a shrike is, but I just assumed it was a compliment.
It is. They're graceful, but they're not mighty. Anyway, this is not the most important or pertinent thing.
They are. They actually pin mice and bugs and things to barbed wire fences and are general.
That was in fact.
This is not knowledge Lyssa necessarily has.
Yeah, you summoned the bird nerd, Robin, not Lyssa or Mavia.
I mean, it seems like something that would come to me
somewhere.
From my...
You suddenly have a profound understanding of how badass shrikes are.
Perhaps I was more right than I knew. Inspiration, truly taken from watching you at work.
I have the good graces to blush in the way that someone who frequently weaponizes the blushing blushes.
I answer your blushing with blushing times 2.
In short order, both of you have passed out and Ramnet has to carry. No, okay.
And
it sounds about right.
Yeah.
At least one of them has a nosebleed.
If this was Disco Elysium, I would have died twice of just social circumstances.
My money is on Liorian for the nosebleed. That's
Yeah, you're practicing.
This is for sure. No, for sure. Yeah, this once again threatens to become an anime.
Yeah, Liorian turns into an anime character. Lyssa kind of ends up going home with somebody she didn't expect to, but it's kind of fine.
Sure.
Yeah, someone across the road has seen this entire exchange.
Yeah. Anyway, so reunited on the steps outside the manifestation, getting each other up to speed a little bit, discussing shrikes. Actually, I made some rolls for some people.
What?
Where are we headed next?
Well, I would suggest that I would relay what was discussed with Liorian and suggest that we either consult Dosk and bring him up to speed on everything that happened, and or we make our way, we determine whether or not to address the Deep or Surtha. And I would push strongly for checking out Ferret.
Why would we be checking out Ferret?
There was sirens there. I remember there being sirens, and I just want to make sure that everything's okay in our aftermath.
Well,
this seems like a sensible sympathy roll to see if you're lying.
I'm not lying. Intentionally.
Just because, it was suggested that perhaps we go after the shard that was stolen from Ferret.
Oh. No, I know that shard was not in Ferret and was using that as an excuse.
Yeah. So
yeah, that was 3 9s for what that's worth.
I mean, I think you get the information in character.
Yeah.
So there's a discussion going on about where your next broader destination might be. Ferret has been nominated. Presumably, if Dosk is to be looped in, Boar is on the table.
Yeah, I put that in.
I think Thor is the most
by way of saying, if we were to appraise, I speak not his name here, of what's happening, perhaps deliver the I speak not of what I carry. This may help me to keep up with you, good and smoky sir, mistress of the forge, etc.
And in the immediate term, are we going anywhere within Fermata or heading to its exit, either while we have this discussion or at its conclusion?
I imagine heading towards the exit once we've decided on Boar.
All right.
Yeah.
So as you are walking, you spend a lot of the transit from the manifestation to the gate walking along the canals. And Ramnet, you see Liorian distractedly looking at the canals rather frequently, and this causes you to tune in on them a little bit more closely, whereupon you notice the water level is up. That's literally never happened before. It's about 3 staircase steps down into the other side of Fermata, higher than it used to be.
Venice is sinking.
Assuming that was out loud. What's Venice? No.
Sounds like a cool place.
I don't know. I can't imagine what possessed me to say that.
Venezia.
I have a gondolier on my t-shirt by sheer coincidence.
Nice.
Handsome shirt.
It's probably impossible to see because it's very, very small print, but inside the gondola it says New Orleans, and then on the gondola it says, "We're not going anywhere else."
Hell yeah.
I love it.
I notice you looking at what I'm looking at. This is thrilling to me, and I inquire as to what you're seeing that I might not be.
The water level is higher.
I mean, could that have anything to do with the way that we're now in an actual place? Like with the gates leading out to the world as they normally do?
I don't know. This has never happened before. At least that I am aware.
Let me also look up a roll here real quick. Ramnet. Knowledge plus lore, 6 dice.
Okay.
What's the opposite of the Hunger Stones being exposed?
Pair of 7s.
Okay. You, in trying to figure this out, are thinking back to before this was Fermata, which is always a little hard. It's tricky. Sort of a palimpsest relationship between the two of them. You don't really remember the water level in the canals in Severin changing that much. You know, a little bit more than they have in Fermata, but infrequently and by less.
Can I perform a lesser divination of tempo to see how quickly they're like? Are they still rising, and at what speed?
So, the lesser divination of tempo, you figure out that the rise in water level started sometime while you guys were in the Godswoods, you think, and is going slowly enough that it is not super noticeable, but in the same way that, like, the vines that are currently climbing my porch that I hack down every time I get in the yard, right, grow quickly, but not fast enough that you can see it if you stare at it.
What's Venice? What's Kudzu?
I believe this stuff is called Smilex, like the gas the Joker used in the...
It's just as funny.
In the Tim Burton movie.
I convey this information that the rise was recent and it is slow but apparently steady.
Is this something we should be concerned about?
Are there divinations for
realm? Yes.
Realm in the same way that there are
divinations for realm. Yes.
Oh,
someone else should do that because I have
a ton of realm miracle points actually that I should probably they were going to be right of the last trump if they were not used here. I have 8, in fact.
This is the rainy day.
Yeah, this is definitely the rainy day to spend these. So I want to do a major divination, because that would be like asking specific questions.
Yeah.
That would require me to spend 3. If I look at it with a sight, do I see any sort of Octortos or something that would require penetration?
Nope.
Okay.
Doesn't seem like it will require penetration. So what is the question that you are asking?
What is the question that I should ask? I ask my party members, having put this miracle in the chamber, so to speak.
Why is the water rising? Will it stop when it hits the street? Like, there are a variety of things.
You want to get enough, like, if we ask why the water, I guess why the water is rising would be the obvious place to start. I just don't want to put ourselves in a situation where we have to ask multiple questions.
I can't help but think that the correct question is who made the water start rising, but I also can't help but think that the answer would be something correct but unhelpful, like us.
So the question I ask is, why is the canal water rising?
I think this might be our first major divination of Realm, the whole campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And you are a little surprised that the voice, you get an internal in your head voice answering your question verbally, and you recognize the voice as belonging to the acolyte that crawled out of the well.
Which one is that?
Same acolyte, the one that's like 9.5 feet tall, you know?
Rep Timothy. Yeah.
That's right. Wasn't ringing a bell till you mentioned the name. Yeah.
And so that somewhat more resonant version of the, very sort of gentle mid-tone speech of the acolytes to which you had become accustomed before, you hear the answer. The water in the canals is rising due to a pact made in the Cyan Mirror between the exiles and a power of the deep.
Huh. The Light Ward. Okay. Are they still in the Cyan Mirror?
Are you using another?
No, I just asked this out loud, trying to, press my luck and see if the fates would let me slip in a second question.
They do not.
Dang.
So, the Light Word?
What was the exact phrasing used again? The exiled? I can only assume is the Light Ward.
The exiles and a power of the deep, and a pact in the Cyan Mirror.
There can't be too many exiles. People, I believe, are generally not allowed to leave here. Several mentioned it as they were hearing my music.
I'm sure it had nothing to do with your music. That I guess that changes our trajectory to just outside the gates.
Yep.
A worthy detour, if ever there was one.
Mm-hmm.
Not even that much of a detour. Was on your way anyway. So
a worthy stopping where we're already walking, if ever I've heard one.
I'm gonna run in for a Coke. You guys want anything?
Yeah, we're just adding a stop to the route we already plugged into the GPS.
Exactly.
So this point in the conversation comes as you enter the plaza with its upsetting statue, featuring visages of distressing consumption, as I believe.
It was a fantastic phrase.
Great phrase.
I probably gag a little bit at the sight of it, and then walk briskly by, averting my gaze.
You gag a little bit, and as you're walking briskly by, your stomach rumbles a little.
A bit peckish.
Unaccountably so.
So we leave, I guess.
Badoot.
You approach the gates. You open them as conventional gates, and they lead outside, although there is, of course, kind of a membrane of darkness you must pass through. I'm going to assume, unless somebody tells me otherwise, that Lyssa is the first one through the gates.
Mm-hmm.
And so you are the first one, although only by a moment, to see that indeed the Lightward are present. They are just outside the gates. There was sort of a little 4-gate community here outside of Semerin back in the day. You saw it when last you came this way, abandoned, starting to get overgrown, worse for wear. Wooden walkways, dirt paths, stilt houses, tree houses, houses on the rare bit of fully dry land, some shops, some sort of other business spaces, a lot of little tiny piers and tie-offs and things, spreading out a ways into the Cyan Mirror with these massive, massive trees towering over all of it. And sort of in the hazy distance of what turns out to be around mid-morning in the outside world, you can, kind of get the suggestion that there is an ocean in that direction ahead of you. But now there are Lightward. They have sort of hermit-crabbed into this settlement. The second thing that you notice, just a fraction of a second after taking all of this in, is that it is windy. Wind is coming from your left, which, if I have my head on straight, is going to be the south, roughly, and whipping past you. It's not threatening to knock you over, but it is sort of like snapping the looser bits of your clothes as you stand in it. And it's not gusting. It's pretty steady. A little bit of, kind of faster and then less fast, but within a fairly narrow band as it goes.
Anything miraculous to this wind when I use the sight?
Well, it isn't the result of a miracle. It is, in fact, the body of a nobilis, one that you recognize. Rymulus is here.
I'm immediately Mavia. Lyssa doesn't get Lyssa doesn't get a choice in this.
The shadows just kind of burst forth from you, and there stands Mavia, reflexively allowing some of her tendrils to sort of snap and undulate in the wind. As the other two of you emerge, you see all of this. There are, the area is wooded enough and the trees are big enough that there is sort of a muted whooshing of trees in the wind, but there's not a lot of foliage being torn up or damaged, and they're sheltering the water and the houses at least a little bit. There are sort of very, very small white caps in the watery areas of the Cyan Mirror that you can see, but these aren't big enough bodies of water to build up real swells. And people are going about their business. The Lightward are a community of a couple hundred people, and they seem to be doing morning chores. No one seems to have taken particular notice of you just yet, but as the presence of Mavia indicates, it will not take a lot of sleuthing to realize that you are standing more or less within the body of Rymulus.
Hello, Rymulus.
The wind sort of hitches upward, downward, and then, kind of resumes. And the three of you hear a voice that booms as if from a great distance, which seems like it's probably the Rymulus version of a speaking voice, a conversational tone. And Rymulus says, "Ah, Furious One, I hoped to see you again. It has been too long. Have you been on any good voyages since our last meeting? I would hear of them."
I've been on many, and I do a ghost miracle, kind of mimicking the journey through the Gods Woods and the journey to Lurenton and all of my travels since, probably even back to Therit.
Mm-hmm. You sort of basically put on a little bit of like a
shadow puppet show.
Show with your
tendrils.
Command of Darkness. Narrating verbally very minimally through all of this, but you feel as though you have Rymelus's rapt attention. Ramnet, Liorian, anything in particular that you're doing, having emerged into this odd scene just in time to see Mavia erupt from Lyssa?
It would be plain on my face that I have no context for what I'm seeing.
Are there introductions to be made, Mavia?
Yes, this is a friend that has helped me on a voyage in the past.
And
I obviously introduced Rymelus by name at this point.
And by estate?
Yes. The Nobilis of Voyages, I believe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't remember if I was ever given a title, as there is just a lot of chaos occurring.
Yeah. You to use a parlance that I am somewhat embarrassed to know, Rymelus did not release his power level in your presence. But as though sort of confirming and seconding your account and your introduction, the wind does its own version of sort of a polite nod, and Rymelus says, "Master of rage, furious traversal, more powerful than despair. What a time we had, furious queen."
The best of times, I say with a furious grin that threatens to swallow my entire face.
At the recitation of the invention of metal, all of the hairs on my body stand on end. I whip out my lute and I begin digga-da-digga-da-da-ing furiously, and I say, "An honor, a pleasure, a privilege to meet you, my lord."
And
pleasure indeed.
Rymelus replies, "It is an honor to make the acquaintance of two more of my noble brethren. Who might you be?" Maybe not having had the graces to give you the introductions, having just done.
That's about right.
Rymelus.
The Viscount of Tempo. You may call me Liorian or whatever please you, my most torrentous lord.
I'm Ramnet, prophet of the Obsidian God. Also murder and sacrifice.
What a company. Compared to the last time that you had contact with Rymelus, Mavia, he was pretty pleasant by your standards, for your speed. This strikes you as, downright giddy for him.
It's adorable. I mean,
it looks good.
Yeah,
on him.
it's a good look.
By this point, the Lightward have noticed the three of you, and a couple of people that you kind of sort of recognize as being from around Fermata are walking your direction when a door bangs open and Kea comes sprinting down the walkway in your direction. She is small and listing in the wind, but does not seem to pay it any mind.
Expression on her face?
Seems like a excited if somewhat anxious one.
Okay.
As she approaches, she, what with the wind noise and everything, she has to get fairly close before she yells, "Lady!" and jumps.
As she is approaching, I will sotto voce relative to the wind, suggests that perhaps you accommodate your other half in this, nodding toward Kea.
By the time you do that, Kea is already airborne. She leaps the last 6 feet in like a dead sprint, full-bodied leap toward Mavia, arms outstretched.
Oh gosh! Is she expecting me to catch her? Is she expecting me to catch her?
Either that or
I slow her motion through the air so that if there is to be an impact, it will be less of one.
She's sailing towards you, armed outstretched. That's all you got.
I reflexively ensnare her in a tendril.
She is sort of caught, like you catch a ground ball, like with a movement with it, and comes to a stop maybe a little less than a foot, from you, sort of wound up in shadow tendrils, and she sort of chuckles, and says, "Well, isn't this cozy, milady? It's so good to see you. I'm glad you're well. I wasn't sure when we left the city that I'd see you again, but here you are." And she sort of like wraps one arm casually around one of the shadow tendrils, and doesn't quite like nuzzle her cheek into it, but sort of like does lean her head a little bit toward it.
I tilt my head at her. It seems that we've fixed the problem that has made you afraid of the dark.
Oh, you found the spot. Yeah.
Liorian also
wonderful.
flew through the window.
Oh. She turns, still held aloft by shadow tendrils, and first to Ramnet, realizes it's Ramnet and that she knows who you are, turns then kind of the other way, as well as she can toward Liorian, and says, "Well, I do hope you're all right, sir. It wasn't a very fun experience for me."
No, could have been worse. I've had worse landings. Pleasure to meet you.
You also, I was going to say, Liorian, you will notice that there is a floating ball of light just behind Kea's shoulder at pretty much all times.
Mm-hmm. We discovered that there was another force within the city working against the obsidian god that led to the Lightward's expulsion from the city, seemingly but not actually upon my orders.
Oh.
The fall from the window was nothing compared to the fear of darkness. I've never felt a fear of darkness like that. I've never felt a fear of anything quite like that. I can only imagine what it must have been like to live with it.
A tendril casually attempts to rest on your shoulder, but most likely just bounces off your tortoise.
Yeah. It sort of like hits, slides a little bit, and then like pulls back.
With the high-pitched screech of something like sliding down glass.
Kea has gotten a little more comfortable in her sort of like, nest of shadow tendrils, and has sort of like rotated and is like hanging on to one that's kind of like near her shoulder to sort of like give her the leverage to like move around, and has faced Liorian a little bit more squarely and says, "Oh, I fear is nothing to underplay. I'm glad you made it through, and at least there won't be any more of us, I suppose. It's honestly not been that bad since we got out. We were worried for a while the Cyanmere's not too hospitable, but, well, I
understand you've made a deal.
I hope you won't be angry, but we did. And she gestures at the wind. The whirlwind was kind enough to help us with the water, getting it fresh enough for us to drink and use to procure some food, driving some of the wildlife and plant life our way, helping us to raise dry land. Honestly, if the obsidian god won't try to run us off, I think we could be pretty comfortable here. It's still not exactly pleasant for most of us at night, but, well, we can provide our own light out here. There's wood aplenty, and it travels so much farther than it does in Fermata. But, well, we make do, and we're thankful to the whirlwind for his help, aren't we? And Romulus goes, "Your offerings are quite satisfactory, and my master is happy to help." Though the wind does not relocate or change speed or direction or anything, you get the sense that Romulus is addressing Mavia quite directly now and says, "I did not realize any of these unfortunates were your pets. They are adorable, though, and I enjoy their company." And Kea blinks a couple times and then kind of goes, "Oh, I suppose I don't mind the sound of that," and kind of like looks down a little bit and kind of glances at Mavia out of the corner of her eye.
Would it be possible, Romulus, for you to direct the water from the outflow here to somewhere other than the chancel?
He is silent for a moment and says, "I did not think that mere water would pass the barrier so easily. But, yes, I should be able to adjust."
I appreciate that.
And your discretion as well.
Well, I promise as much discretion as I can manage, but oftentimes discretion with our imperators is not the fate of us nobilis, is it?
No, particularly when ours are so historically at cross purposes.
I heard about the events at Ferret. I was not present myself. I was on a voyage. You can hear the smile.
As I imagine happened.
But, well, my lord was not especially pleased, despite the gain in territory. However, Furious Queen, I hear that you were glorious.
Indeed I was. You could say that.
A nearby sort of like plume of water kind of like gets caught in the wind, and a couple drops of brackish water splat into the side of only Mavia's face. You think this is a gesture of affection akin to a pat on the shoulder, but it could be somewhat more intimate than that. You're not sure.
There's a rigidity to my posture, but I accept the gesture.
Romulus, what are your thoughts on the Grand War?
Well, that's a fascinating question. While this conversation is going on, Kea has managed to sort of like work her way along a couple of the tendrils so that she is kind of seated on two of them, sort of partway underneath one of Mavia's arms, and seems to be sort of snuggling in. And Romulus,
they change into the vague shape of a tire swing.
I love that.
Cozy.
Yeah. Romulus continues and says, "I do not love conflict for its own sake. As appealing as a certain amount of chaos is, I'm a traveler, so the war has given me purpose, reason, cause to travel about quite a bit, meet interesting and alluring people. But not often to associate with them as I would wish. I suppose you could say I am ambivalent.
I have met a traveler, a second, of course, to you, and the duration and scale of their journeys. But they are a god, a walking desert. I think you would very much enjoy hearing their tales, and they are more neutral when it comes to the conflict, and yet still have plenty of purpose, even without a chancel or even nobilis of their own.
Further, there begins to be a faction largely, but not entirely, populated by nobilis rather than imperators. We seek to convince our imperators, obviously.
A fascinating but dangerous game.
To end the war. To end the war by destroying the object of it.
Doesn't danger make the voyage more appealing?
It can, O Furious One, it can. I am intrigued by this possibility. But I do not think that it will hold much sway with my master. And as I said, it is a very dangerous ploy. Imperators are unlikely to look kindly upon even the most well-intentioned scheming between their nobilis. This level of fraternization is possible currently because my assignment is to aid the Light Word, and no more. But I can guarantee you that Dagon did not send me here altruistically.
Oh, of course not.
I am perched at the very gate of your chancel, waiting for an opportunity, I assume. And should the order come, I will not have the power to say no.
What if you could have the power?
This seems like a pipe dream, but go on.
No imperator acts selflessly, this much is true. But if the verse that you quoted is any indication, you know that among ourselves we can understand each other's nature in a way that our masters couldn't, unless, of course, there were one of them who really fundamentally is one of us.
And you know of them. Their songs reached us.
You risk much, and would ask me to risk much, but you also make a compelling case. Stay here. Enjoy the hospitality I am able to provide through the Light Word. We will speak more of this once I've had some time to think.
We should be able to offer transit if you wish to consult with that whom Mavia had alluded to. I suspect also that the Lightward could be brought along. So you could continue your assignment while you consider.
The wind does the equivalent of a sort of disappointed shake of the head, and Rimelu says, "The latitude I have to act is granted to me so long as I stay outside the gates of Fermata. I and the Lightward must remain here if I am to have any freedom to consider."
Very well.
Then let us make much of your hospitality.
I would have it no other way, O Furious One. And at that moment, Simultaneously, the three of you become aware of heavy footfalls approaching along the planking, and you see Thad. Unlit lantern at his belt, big smile on his face, walking up with a big wave.
End the session.
You're gonna say, and that's when I quit.
He was supposed to be with Varric. Please proceed. I am done with my tantrum.
He's waving, he's walking up, and, he says, "Oh, great. You found him, Kea. Awesome. Word just came down. We're supposed to show you to the inn we're putting together. It's not, done yet or anything, but I think you're going to like it. We're super proud of how this place is coming along. Varric, already making some ale. How cool is that?"
Well, that answers a few of my questions.
And not in the way you wanted
in the
them to
way
be
that
answered.
I wanted them answered. Though I do tilt my head at the name of Varric.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't, exactly conjure a specific image, but it sort of echoes in your mind a little bit. And unless there is an inclination to do otherwise, I would assume that you allow Thad and sort of a secondary Kea to lead you all to what hospitality the Cyanmere settlement here has to offer.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Though I probably
Here.
do... I probably, in the same... Sorry. In the same way that I was just splashed, caressed with water. I'm going to do a ghost miracle of darkness and kind of throw some darkness into the whipping torrents of Ramulus to watch it flow around with the same sort of glee that a kid might put a marble in one of those marble mazes just to watch it go through the path.
Yeah, there were those little colored oil and water things at children's museums that you could sort of get a whirlpool going in. It's a little like that. Not the proportion of darkness to whirling air is relatively low, but it kind of has the same feel to it. Rymulus chuckles warmly, and you are led into a inn that is rapidly being refurbished, from this old kind of thing, that's as good a place as any to end this session, I think. So thank you to everybody for playing, for listening. Everybody can have one mortal experience point. If there's anything you particularly want to register for next time here so that we kind of have it on record, I don't mind taking a second for that. But
I'll note only that seeing these intimate gestures between Mavia and Ramulus, I have the certain knowledge that I'm seeing something I shouldn't, and that I don't understand.
It's unknowable flirting.
I mean, it seems certainly something that should be kept unknown to Maud.
Quite possibly. But yeah.
Fraternizing among demigods, indeed. Yeah.
That'll conclude this session of Dice Punks. Thanks for joining us. I hope everybody had a great time. I know I did, especially when I got to use my growly voice to try and butter up Mavia as Rymulus. That was very amusing. If you want to hear more of that kind of thing, you can tune in to the Dice Peaks, our after show available to patrons at the $5 level or higher. Just getting a little bit of a pitch in there. So if you want to visit us at patreon.com/dicepunks, you'd also get access to a Patreon Discord. And, if we, pick up a little bit of steam, we might have cause for some polls here and there that you get to participate in. Thanks to our current patrons who have bought 2 systems for us already and are going to be buying some updated equipment for us relatively soon.
You're amazing.
So, yeah, we really appreciate those
you.
folks.
Much
We also
obliged.
really appreciate the people who just listen to us.
Yeah.
You're here.
It's not too much to ask. You can rate and review us kind of wherever you happen to listen to us. That's always helpful.
Connect with us. We won't splash you with water.
We definitely unless you want us to, and we can finagle it. Whatever, that's fine. Or just share us with a friend or an enemy.
Yeah, if you've got someone you think would like us, show them to the RSS. Show them to your favorite platform. Show them to dicepunks.com or Twitter @dicepunks. Little.
And on second thought, don't show us to enemies; they don't deserve it.
But
unless you have high quality.
That's true. As one, I would hope we all do, but
no, sadly,
I aspire to a better quality of enemies than I have, I think. But yeah,
sign of the times.
Thanks for sticking around through a little bit more, sort of pitching and self-promotion than we usually put here. But with all of that, I think we are last ready to say farewell. So say goodbye to the kind folks at home, players.
Thanks so much for listening. And when you find a fellow spirit, embrace them, even if they're literally the wind.
And thanks for listening. And dear listener, I still shipwreck it.
Thanks for listening, folks. And if you find yourself in difficult employment, try to use it.
Here. And I'm going to try something a little bit different here. See if you can pick it out. As the poet once said, "Like roots into the ocean, the wellspring is nailed to a chain, a lost and binding dream, carving a reckless control." Thank you for tuning in, dear listeners, and stick around through the admin stuff for a very determined Ramnet murder. The songs in this episode, Theme of the Dice Punks and its acoustic version, were written and recorded by the Viscount of Tempo and his element, Drew. Cover art is by Joanne, who's appeared on the podcast now and again. Check out her work around the internet where she goes by Anything Sews. Site design and graphics for dicepunks.com are by Robin, the player behind Mavia, the nobilis of darkness, fury, and sacrifice. Rain and the one-roll engine it runs on were created by Greg Stolze, whose work can be found in a lot of cool places, but I'll point you toward gregstolze.com. Nobilis was created by Jenna Caterin Moran and can be found alongside much of her other really intriguing work, both in and outside of tabletop role-playing, at afarandsunlessland.wordpress.com. Links to both systems and authors can be found on the Punk Grimoire section of our website, dicepunks.com. Thanks so much for listening. If you liked what you heard, that's reward enough on its own, but if you're so inclined, you can help us out by rating and reviewing us wherever you listen to us, telling your friends who you think would like us to give us a listen, and even by heading over to our Patreon at patreon.com/dicepunks. We have fun rewards available to our backers, including a patron-only Discord and access to the Dice Peaks after show for episodes 1 and following. Regardless, we hope you'll tune in again, and until then, remember, subtlety is for cowards.
What are the parts of a murder? Legally, at least in those places with a code of sorts, that particularly sets out elements for a crime called murder. It is generally found to be the intentional killing of a human being by the guilty party without excuse or justification. There's a great deal of debate, usually in legal proceedings related to murder, about what each of those elements entail and what the viable excuses and justifications may be, but those vary so wildly between jurisdictions that we can safely ignore them for universal definitional purposes. The legal proceedings related to murder are just at the edges of my purview, and are not of much concern to me. After all, non-humans are quite capable of murder. Houses and pens, in evidence. Murder, though, extends well beyond the killing of mere humans. You can murder a nobilis, a concept, a meal, a piece of legislation. It need not be a person or human, to the degree that those are distinct where you live. I have not yet tried it, but multiple languages call a sufficiency of prose a murder. There could be something there. Centrally, then, to have a murder, you need death and intent. Now I need to find a way to murder